In today's video, our expert team uncovered some of the most disrespectful defendants in court. These individuals didn't seem to care at all about showing respect to the judges or officers in the courtroom. They acted in ways that were rude and disregarded the authority present. It's important to remember that showing respect in court is crucial for a fair legal process. In first case, during a moment of anger, Alex Jones, who hosts different platforms and shares a lot of interviews on X, declared that he was no longer going to apologize in court. This happened back in his trial when he was in court for the second time, facing allegations of defamation. He had previously claimed that the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting was a hoax. "Is this a struggle session? Are we in China?" he asked suddenly during his testimony. His question came after he was reminded about the victims who lost their lives and was shown a video of Robbie Parker speaking at a press conference the day after his daughter Emily was killed in the mass shooting of 2012. "I've already said I'm sorry hundreds of times and I'm done saying I'm sorry," Jones said. On this day, lots of families of the victims were in the courtroom. Many of them were crying while they listened to the testimony. The trial was taking place in Waterbury, Connecticut, not too far, about 20 miles from Newtown where the shooting happened. A group of people called the jury is trying to figure out how much money Jones should give to the families of 8 people who were hurt in the Sandy Hook shooting, as well as an FBI agent who helped when it happened. They say Jones told lies about the shooting, and because of those lies, they had a really hard time. People believed him, and that made them feel really upset and bothered. "This is not really a trial," he said. "This is a show trial, a literal kangaroo court." Jones confessed in court that he had been telling untrue stories on his radio and internet programs for many years. He claimed that the Sandy Hook shooting wasn't real and that the families of the victims were pretending to be affected. This trial went viral, as Jones argued throughout the case. Texas jury decided that Jones had to pay almost $50 million in damages. This money was awarded to Scarlett and Neil. Their son, Jesse, who was only 6 years old, was one of the victims of the Sandy Hook attack. Jones admitted that it was upsetting to him that the outlet spread lies about him. What is your opinion about Alex Jones? We are interested in your opinion. Take a second to subscribe and like the video to help the channel creating more content for you. Next case, we see Redding from Marysville really angry when a jury found him guilty of hurting someone. Anthony Redding is 49 years old. He ripped his shirt open and started shouting at the judge. This happened in the Union County Court. Court papers say he even made threatening moves towards the jury when they said he was guilty. "Death sentence. That's what I got," Redding can be heard stating on courtroom video. In the courtroom, Redding called a sheriff's deputy Satan and tore open his buttoned shirt. "There is no reason for you to be acting this way," Judge Don Fraser said. The judge told Redding to wear handcuffs when he was sentenced because he yelled swear words at the judge. Redding was found guilty by a jury for hitting his girlfriend in the eye during a fight in February. As a result, she lost her eye, according to papers. Fraser decided Redding was a repeat violent criminal because he had been convicted before for hurting others, like in 2015 for serious assault and in 2008 for attacking someone with a weapon. In papers from the court, it was stated that Fraser decided Redding didn't truly feel sorry for what he did. Redding got the longest punishment possible in state, which is 18 years in jail. Redding mentioned he had a serious injury to his brain, and he didn't get the medicine he needed while he was in county jail. Did he got what he deserved? Comment it down below. In next historic courtroom moment, a security camera recorded when a person attacked a judge in Mississippi while a bailiff was trying to take him out of the courtroom. Sidney Newsome, 27, was at Pike County Justice Court facing a charge of domestic violence. During the court session, he started throwing objects at Judge Aubrey Rimes, as reported by News. It looked like Newsome managed to break free from a bailiff who was escorting him out of the courtroom. Even though his hands were restrained, Newsome somehow got hold of a stack of papers and hurled them at Judge Rimes. Then, he grabbed a telephone and threw it too. Judge Rimes had to leave his spot behind the bench to help in restraining Newsome. In a video, it was seen that the judge held him down on a table while he tried to get free. Another man who stood up to assist the judge was said to be Newsome's brother, according to reporters. Newsome has been accused of disrespecting the court and might face more charges related to what happened on January 7th, said Pike County Sheriff James Brumfield to NBC News. Newsome is now in jail. It was an unfortunate incident that occurred, but we've put in place security procedures to make sure it does not happen again, Brumfield said. Robert Accardo, who is the president of the Pike County Board of Supervisors, spoke out. He said that although Rhymes could handle the situation, officials don't want to see similar incidents happening in court again. We will increase security there, whether it be constables or sheriff's deputies. There will be a presence there at all times, Accardo said. How do you think court can prevent such attacks? In following trial, Keith Ferguson went to court. He admitted that he killed 2 people on November 18th. He seemed very angry. He agreed to a deal offered by the court. He said he was guilty of killing his estranged wife, Tiffany Ferguson, and his father-in-law, James Weber. The deal means that he won't face trial for 10 other charges against him. This information was shared by the county prosecutor, Mike Pereal. To get the court to agree with Ferguson's plea, he had to explain exactly what happened in the crime by answering some questions. But when he spoke in court, Ferguson began yelling swear words and getting angry at the judge and the reporters. He kept telling Judge George Mertz of Kalkaska County Court that he didn't want to talk about all those details too much. Listen, I'm not going to get into details, all right. I am guilty. Get on with my death sentence. I want my lunch, yelled Ferguson. Ferguson kept disagreeing with Judge Mertz for a few minutes. Okay, well, I'm not getting into any details of what happened, said Ferguson. If you want to be found guilty, then you have to say what you did, said Mertz. The court said Ferguson was guilty. When Ferguson left the room, he asked Judge Mertz to give him the death penalty again, but Judge Mertz said no. Ferguson then turned to everyone in the room and angrily said, "I'll see you all in hell." Ferguson faces life in prison without the possibility of parole. Take a second to subscribe and like the video to not miss any content. A man named Joey Watts was in trouble with the law in Arkansas. He was accused of doing serious things, threatening someone with a weapon and having a gun illegally. His case was being decided by the jury in court. But before they could finish deciding, Joey left the courthouse. Later, the jury said he was guilty of both charges. The police caught him the next day. This happened at the Grant County Courthouse in Sheridan. A lawyer named Norman Frisbee was trying to prove Joey did these bad things. He said the jury already decided Joey did threaten someone before he ran away. The video shows Watts sitting with his lawyer in court. Then he stands up and leaves the room. He walks down the stairs, through a hallway, and out of the building. Frisbee mentioned that Watts's lawyer advised him not to leave, but he did anyway. Since he was out on bond and hadn't been convicted, he had the freedom to move around, said Pete Roberts, chief deputy of the Grant County Sheriff's Office, to NBC News. The deputy prosecutor explained that there wasn't a second bailiff present to stop Watts from leaving. Grants County has a bailiff, and they're looking to hire another one soon, according to Roberts. Watts got caught the night later. The sheriff's office mentioned that 3 others helped him leave the courthouse, and they all got arrested. They're facing a serious charge called a Class C felony. The jury decided that Watts will spend a long time in prison, 36 years in total. He got 10 years for assault and 26 years for having a gun, as Frisbee explained. In this case, Darrell Brooks received his punishment for the Christmas parade tragedy. He's 40 years old. He was found guilty of causing the deaths of 6 people and hurting many more on November 21st, 3 years ago. That day, what should have been a happy time turned into a terrible event. Judge Jennifer Doro decided that Brooks should spend the rest of his life in prison. He won't have any chance of getting out early. This is because of the 6 lives he took when he drove his SUV into the parade crowd. Additionally, he was sentenced to 17.5 years for each of the 61 counts of recklessly putting others in danger. The maximum sentence for each count is 12.5 years, but due to an extra punishment called an enhancer, another 5 years were added to each conviction. These convictions will also be served one after the other, in addition to the life sentences. Furthermore, the judge handed Brooks 6 more sentences, each lasting 25 years consecutively, for every hit-and-run case resulting in a death. Brooks got 2 6-year prison terms for each of the serious crimes he committed while out on bail. The judge said these sentences will happen one after the other. He also got the longest sentence possible, 9 months, for hurting his ex-girlfriend Erica Patterson. This sentence will happen after the other ones too. Before the parade attack, Brooks had been let out of jail. He was released just under 2 weeks earlier because he had hurt someone in a different case. He only had to pay $1,000 to get out, which the lawyers now say was too low. In that case, he's accused of running over a woman who claims to be his child's mom. During his trial, Brooks decided to be his own lawyer, even though there was a lot of evidence against him. The trial lasted for a month, and during that time, Brooks behaved strangely. He would shout unexpectedly, ignore when people called him by his name, and kept interrupting Doro, the person prosecuting him. The judge had to move him to another room sometimes, where he could still be part of the trial through a video, but she could turn off his microphone if he talked too much. Before this trial, Brooks had said he wasn't guilty because he has mental problems, but his lawyers stopped using that defense in September. Brooks is now in jail and was not taking anything serious for his horrific actions. A man from Texas admitted that he did something wrong in court. He confessed to attacking a federal officer during a protest in Portland last July. He struck the officer on the shoulder, neck, and upper back. After the event, he got arrested for attacking a federal officer with a dangerous tool. Later on, the grand jury accused him of the same crime. The acting U.S. Marshal for the District of Oregon, Peter Cajigal, stated in a news release that anyone who hurts a U.S. Marshal Service worker will face charges. He mentioned that the person could have seriously harmed the deputy he attacked with a construction hammer. He also thanked the U.S. Attorney's Office for handling the case. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Oregon says that Gaines might have to go to prison for up to 20 years. He could also get a fine of $250,000 and have to be supervised after he's released. What do you think of the verdict in this case? On Wednesday morning, there was a lot of confusion in the courtroom because Scott Nelson had another loud moment at Orange County Court. Nelson was found guilty of murdering Jennifer Fulford, a nanny from Winter Park. On Wednesday, when it was time for his verdict, he started yelling at his lawyers and disagreeing with the judge. The judge had to warn Nelson to stop talking or leave the courtroom. Another day in court, Scott Nelson couldn't hold back his emotions again. He's on trial for serious crimes and he could face the death penalty. During his sentencing hearing, when an expert mentioned Nelson's past troubles with gangs in prison, he couldn't stay silent. In the end, Nelson walked out of the courtroom alongside his lawyers. For most of the trial days, he shouted and didn't agree with anything said. When he returned, the judge inquired, "Are there any problems moving forward?" Nelson replied, "No, sir, everything's fine. I'm ready to continue. I got a bit emotional earlier, but it won't happen again." And it didn't. Nelson remained silent for the remainder of the witness testimony and the next one. Nelson is going to be in jail for decades. His behavior in court will certainly not help to reduce his sentence. Should criminals get more years for their aggressive behavior in court? Which courtroom moment do you think was the most disrespectful case? If you know court cases that could be featured on the channel, please write it in the comments section. Take a second to write your thoughts down below. Please subscribe to our channel and check out one of these videos. See you next time around. Take care.